Picture the retirement you have quietly given up on. There is an ocean in it, morning light coming off the water, coffee on a balcony while the tide comes in, a slow walk on wet sand before the day even starts, and then the number shows up in your head, the one that closes the door. A house on the water costs $3 million, maybe 5, maybe 10. So you file the whole dream under someday or under never, and you go back to a life that happens nowhere near the sea. Here is what I want to show you today. The number that closed that door was the wrong number. You were pricing a mansion when all you ever wanted was the ocean, and the ocean is far, far cheaper than the postcard made you believe. Let me start with the mistake almost everyone makes, because once you see it, the entire dream changes shape. When you imagine retiring by the ocean, you do not actually picture a deed. You do not picture a property tax bill or a hurricane insurance premium. You picture a feeling, the sound of water, the light, a walkable little town where the day moves slowly. That feeling is the dream, but the way it gets priced in your head is as a $4 million glass house hanging off a cliff in Malibu. You took the cheapest part of the dream, the water, which is free and belongs to everyone, and you bolted it onto the single most expensive object in American real estate. No wonder it felt impossible. You were not pricing the ocean. You were pricing the status of owning a piece of it. So let us separate those two things, because they have almost nothing to do with each other. There is ocean access, which means living somewhere the water is a 10-minute walk away, where your morning sand and your evening sunset are completely free and yours every single day. And then there is oceanfront ownership, which means holding the legal title to a specific expensive rectangle of coast, paying to insure it against the same ocean you love, and paying every year to keep the salt air from eating it alive. Here is the quiet truth. The feeling you actually want comes entirely from the first one. Almost the entire cost comes entirely from the second one. The dream and the price tag are attached to two completely different things, and once you unhook them, the math stops being scary. Now let me give you the real numbers, because this is where the door swings back open. Forget the marquee zip codes for a second, the Naples and the Hamptons and the Malibu. There are real ocean towns in this country today where retirees live a genuinely good life on $1,800 a month or less. Some of them on closer to $1,500, which is about $18,000 a year for an entire life by the water. These are not miserable compromises. These are warm, walkable, friendly towns with real beaches and real sunsets. Look at the Gulf Coast. A town like Gulfport, Mississippi, has a cost of living about 15% below the national average, and housing costs around 30% lower, which means a retiree can keep monthly expenses comfortably under $1,800 and still be a short drive from the water. Look at the Florida Panhandle. Pensacola runs about 13% cheaper than the national average, with a median home price around $283,000, in a state with no income tax at all. A little further down, a town like Melbourne has two-bedroom rents around $1,700, cheap groceries, and again, no state income tax to quietly skim your retirement every year. Up in North Carolina, a place like Sunset Beach has median rents around $1,200, with a cost of living still below the national average. None of these is a fantasy. These are ordinary American beach towns where ordinary retirement money buys an extraordinary daily view. But let me show you the version of this that feels almost unfair, because it is the one that turns an average income into a life that looks like a magazine. It is called Geographic arbitrage, which is a fancy term for a very simple idea. You earn or collect your money in an expensive country, and you spend it in a cheaper one. And there are beautiful coastlines on this planet where even an average Social Security check covers most or all of a couple's monthly life. Consider Mexico. On the Pacific coast, in a town like Mazatlan or Puerto Vallarta, a couple can live comfortably on $1,500 to $2,000 a month. A one-bedroom apartment in a popular expat area can run between $400 and $800 a month. And Mexico does not tax your United States Social Security or your pension at all. Or consider Portugal, which has the lowest cost of living in Western Europe. Down in the Algarve, in a sunny town like Lagos, you can find a furnished two-bedroom rental a short walk from the beach for around $1,300 a month, and a couple can live nicely on $2,500 to $3,000 a month all in. The United States and Portugal even have a tax treaty, so you are not taxed twice on the same retirement income. Now hold that against this single fact. The average United States Social Security retirement benefit is roughly $1,900 to $2,000 a month. Read that again next to the numbers I just gave you. In these places, one average Social Security check, the income you have already earned and will already receive, covers most or all of a beautiful coastal life. You are taking a permanent stream of money that buys you a modest, ocean-free existence inside the United States, and you are moving it somewhere it buys you sunrises over the water. The income did not change. The view did. Let me put this in the language this channel always comes back to, the language of the nest egg, because it makes the whole thing concrete. Suppose you want a comfortable ocean life that costs about $2,500 a month, which is $30,000 a year. The simple rule of thumb says you need about 25 times your annual spending invested to fund it more or less forever, which would be $750,000. That already sounds far more reachable than $3 million. But it gets better. If Social Security is already covering, say, $1,900 of that $2,500 a month, then your investments only have to cover the remaining $600 a month. $600 a month is $7,200 a year, and 25 times that is just about $180,000. $180,000 in a retirement account, plus the Social Security you have already earned, can fund a life by the sea. Compare that to the $3 million mansion you had been using to tell yourself it was impossible. The real number is often a tenth or a quarter of what you pictured. The dream was never $3 million away. It was $180,000 and a change of address away. I know what the worry is because it is a fair one. What about owning something? Should you not buy the oceanfront place so you have an asset, so you are not throwing money away on rent? And here is the honest answer the genuinely savvy retiree understands. Near the water, renting is very often the smarter move, not the lazy one. When you rent a place a short walk from the beach, you get every bit of the sunrise and none of the bill that comes with the deed. The owner of the oceanfront property is the one paying the eye-watering hurricane and flood insurance, the one paying to repair what salt air and storms chew through every single year, the one whose money is locked up illiquid in a single risky rectangle of coast. You, the renter, are mobile. You are liquid. You can try the Gulf Coast for 2 years and the Algarve for 2 more, and never once be trapped by a property you could not sell. Renting the view instead of owning it is often how the smart ones keep both the ocean and their freedom. So step back and notice what actually happened here. The thing that made an ocean retirement feel impossible was never the ocean. The ocean is free. It was the belief that you had to own a multi-million-dollar trophy on the water to be allowed to enjoy it. That belief is the entire price tag, and it is optional. The moment you let go of owning the postcard and decide instead to simply live inside it, the cost collapses from a fortune to something an ordinary retirement, or even an ordinary Social Security check can carry. And this is the pattern under every single video on this channel, the one worth saying out loud one more time. The expensive part of almost any dream is rarely the experience itself. It is the ownership, the status, the trophy version of the thing. The sunrise over the water costs nothing. The walkable town and the slow morning cost a fraction of what you feared. What costs $3 million is the deed, the bragging rights, the part you would barely think about once you actually lived there. Strip away the status and keep the substance, and almost every life you thought was reserved for the rich turns out to be quietly, surprisingly, within reach. The oceanfront mansion was never really the dream. The water, the light, the slow morning coffee with the tide coming in, that was the dream. And that dream has a price tag a lot closer to a modest apartment, a short walk from the beach, than to a $3 million house on the cliff. The only thing standing between most people and a life by the sea was the belief that they had to own the entire coast to be allowed to wake up next to it. You never did, and now you know the math. If this changed how you think about one expensive thing you've been telling yourself you can't have, there are a lot more of these, the real math behind the life you actually want. Subscribe, and let's keep decoding it together.